A call into the black. Death responds. Darkness swirls around you. All is nothing. Yet the emptiness is everything. In this void, a laugh and an invitation. Do you dare respond? After driving off the horrid cricks and noxious undead raised by Shadow Tongue, the Signoran forces were hoping for a break, only to immediately find the undead forces of the Legion of Dusk at their back door.
What is up, guys? Fear here, and welcome to episode 3 of Total War Immoren, a narrative campaign battle report series hosted at the Prison Blade server. Today, I am fighting against Gildin with his Signar Storm Legion with Anson Wolf and my Dusk House Kallys Hazaroth. So we are running a 50-point battle, and let's head on to the lists. So after last episode, I managed to unlock dices for my army list, and here is my updated Hazaroth list. So we have Hazaroth Narcissus of Ruin, Eidolon with True Sight Head, Force Fist right arm, Force Shield left arm, and a Force Cannon. We have a Dreadguard Sire solo, Dices the Eye of Darkness, a Mage Hunter Commander solo, Dreadguard Cavalry unit, Dreadguard Slayers unit, and Seeker Adepts for my entire army. The cards I'm bringing today are Careful Reconnaissance, Duck and Cover, Hit and Run, Lucky Penny, and Old Faithful. For Gildin's list, as I mentioned, we are facing Major Anson Wolf for our enemy caster, a Courser with a Shield Guard head, right arm Voltaic Spear, left arm Electrified Shield, a Striker with a Plasma Nimbus head, a right arm Voltaic Halberd, and a left arm Power Fist. For his solos, Gildin is bringing a Legionnaire Officer, a Sharpshooter. For his units, we see a Stormblade Legionnaire unit with the Legionnaire Standard Bearer, a unit of Stormguard Legionnaires, and a unit of Tempest Thunderers. For his cards, Gildin is bringing Blessing of the Gods, Careful Reconnaissance, Lucky Penny, Old Faithful, and Put the Fires Out.
Deployment.
Our scenario for today is the High Stakes scenario from the January Steamroller, and Gildin is deploying first. For our scenario terrains, we have the red scenario terrain located in the rubble terrain in the upper left-hand corner of the map, and the blue scenario terrain is directly mirrored at with the lower right-hand rubble located at the right-hand side of the map. For Gildin's deployment, he has the Sharpshooter on the far left side of the map, followed by the Tempest Thunderers, and then we see the Courser, followed by Anson Wolf in the center of the map, and then the Striker Heavy Warjack. On Gildin's far right flank, we see the Stormblade Legionnaires, along with their Standard Bearer, and the Stormguard Legionnaires to close off his right flank. And as part of his campaign rewards, Gildin is also able to deploy defenses, and they are as follows. We see a Spike Trap in the middle left of the map, right inside the cloud, a barrier right beside the Dust Devil, another Spike Trap behind the Shallow Water, and a final Spike Trap right beside the wall near Gildin's deployment area. Going on to my deployment, I started with a relatively condensed deployment, and from left to right, we have the Eidolon. Behind it are the Seeker Adepts, Hazaroth in the middle of the map. Behind him is Dices, and right next to her in a long line are the Dreadguard Cavalry. Beside the Dreadguard Cavalry is the Dreadguard Slayers. Behind the Slayers are both of my solos, which are the Dreadguard Sire and the Mage Hunter Commander. The reasoning for my deployment is simple. I have two 40 mils on both sides of the map, and the blue 40 mil should be able to get covered by my Seer Adepts while they support the Eidolon. They could either hide behind the forest or in the forest just so that they can reach the Eidolon with their empowers. The Eidolon and Hazaroth would be ideally used to claim the 50 mil objective in the center of the map, and all of my Dreadguard should be able to try and push forward to claim the 40 mil objective on Gildan's side of the map. I have both UAs to try and camp the scenario terrain on my side of the rubble, and ideally I will just let go of the scenario terrain on Gildan's side of the map.
Storm Legion turn 1.
So I'll first start with my Sharpshooter. Sharpshooter's just going to run. It can run a total of 11 inches, -2 when hitting the rubble, so 9 inches. I will move up my Tempest Thunderers. They're also going to run there. They can move 10 inches. Then I can move them up to 2. Oh yeah, I'm going to activate Wolfie. First I'm going to cast Snipe on my Corsair. And set upkeep. Yeah, I'll cast Arcane Shield for 2. I'll cast it on the Striker. Wolfie's going to run. Yeah. And then it'll be his turn. Then I'll activate the Corsair. I'm going to spend 1 focus to run. So Corsair moves 11 as well. And then I'll activate the Striker. Since the Striker is activating within 3 of a warrior model, I'll get 1 more focus. I'm going to spend 1 focus on his Polarity Shield, or Polarity Field. It can be targeted by a charge or slam power attack made by a construct. Then I'll spend 1 focus. Starblade Legionnaires are going to run this way. They're going to run like there. And then what else gets with it too? I'll have my Legionnaire Officer activate. He'll give March to the Stormblade Legionnaires. And then he's going to run. And then the Stormblade Legionnaires will run. They have March, so they can run unimpeded by the forest.
Dusk, turn 1.
So as usual, start of Hazaroth turn, apparition 2 inches forward, power up for 7, and 1 on the Eidolon. So I start my turn by activating the Eidolon and declaring a run, and I try to fit it between the forest and the obstacle. I initially wanted to do this so that I have an angle to fight at the middle. Like I mentioned, I wanted the Eidolon to be able to claim or contest the 50 mil objective, so I was hoping that Gildan's forces wouldn't be able to reach the Eidolon while it just sat there delivering knockdowns and smites via its ranged weaponry. I then activate the Seeker Adepts and run them forward to try and support the Eidolon in the following turn. I hide them right behind the Eidolon's base because it's a bigger base, so I have 0 line of sight. Gildan has 0 line of sight towards them. I want them there initially, as by turn 2, I want to be able to swing into the 40 mil while empowering the Eidolon. I then activate the Dreadguard Slingers and run them up the board, but not too far that I get into charge risk from Gildan. So I just put them shy of charge distance and the rest of the other guys behind. I also want them nearby so that when I do decide to give them shield guard from the Mage Hunter Commander, they could help protect the Dreadguard Cavalry, because I put them here in this position because mainly I want them to help get rid of the Jacks and let the Dreadguard Cavalry be able to swing wide and get rid of Gildan's infantry. So ideally, I want the cavalry to be able to charge the following turn with minimal loss as much as possible. I then activate the Dreadguard Cavalry and run them 13 inches and try to keep away from the potential charge back from Gildan. I realize here that the map that we are playing on is actually very crowded, at least for my units, especially with me having mostly medium-based models. Finding spots to place my models at the best possible way was actually pretty difficult now that I'm looking at it from after editing. But yeah, I initially just place the models near the Dreadguard Slayer so that once I activate the Mage Hunter Commander, I can give them Shield Guard and protect the cavalry from potential attacks coming from either the Jack or the other Storm Guards that have any ranged attacks. I then activate the Mage Hunter Commander, and this is how I realized that I did not really pre-plan my moves better. I realized that I've jammed myself up and will not be able to place the Mage Hunter Commander in a more effective position for the next turn. But you live and learn, so in here I just advance the Mage Hunter Commander and use his battle plan at all costs and target the Dreadguard Slayers in order to give them Shield Guard. And like I mentioned, having Shield Guard would enable me to protect the Dreadguard Cavalry better. Next up, I activate the Dreadguard Sire, and like I mentioned here, I realized that I've jammed the right flank up too much. So luckily, the Dreadguard Sire isn't really effective this turn, so I decide to run him right behind the wall. And ideally, next turn, I should be able to activate move 6 and give a battle plan to the Dreadguard Cavalry while getting near the flag. I then activate Dices and fly her to a space wherein I could use her spell slave more effectively in the following turn. Her having Incorporeal really helps with placements, and her small base doesn't actually hurt. I then activate Hazaroth and advance him right behind the Redguard Slayer so that he has that nice shield wall bubble. I then activate Shadowmancer in order to give Hazaroth and the Eidolon stealth and Dark Shroud, which ideally would matter in the subsequent turns. What I'm actually hoping for is the stealth to be able to protect the Eidolon, because at this point I realize he is relatively exposed to ranged fire from the right flank.
Storm Legion turn 2.
Allocation. I guess I'll give one more to the Course Town, one more Dragger. I'll start my activations. The Sharpshooter is just... let's just move up. Yeah, I'll do that. The Tempest Thunderers are just gonna to the barrier. And they can't see anyone, so they can't shoot. Yeah, so number 3 is gonna shoot number 1 then. Rat of 6. So that'll be, I need a 7. I do hit. Okay, POW 14. 7. Then it's AoE 2. So the AoE will hit both of them. This is a POW 8. Yeah, so this is probably not too much. Leaders. All right, then number 1 will shoot number 3.
Okay.
Same thing. So I need a 7 to hit. I get it. Then the AoE will hit number 1 and number 2. Nope. And then number nothing. Okay. May as well go big or go home. Okay, yeah. I'll charge. They have Big Game Hunter. This model gains an additional die on its melee and range damage rolls against cohorts. I need a 6 on all of them. I'll just do from number 1 to number 5. Number 1 hits. Number 2 hits.
Yep.
Number 3 hits. Number 4 hits. And number 5 also hits. 46 5 times. So I'll do the first one. So dice -7, 4 to 4, or 9 to 4. Third one, number 4. That's crazy. That's a crazy first charge. Ow. Well, these Stormguard Legionnaires. That was a good first charge. Okay. I'll activate Wolfie now. He's gonna move. I'm gonna move up 6. Yeah, that. I'm gonna spend 2 to cast Lightning Pulse. And I'll spend 1 focus to boost it. I'll do it number 3. So I need a 8 because I am arcane attack for all 6. I get it. Oh my gosh. I'm 16. Okay. Dice -6. Yeah. What I wanted to do was use my feat. When one or more friendly faction models are destroyed while in Wolfie's control area by an enemy attack, immediately after the attack is resolved, one model in Wolfie's battle group currently in his control area can advance up to 2 inches and make 1 basic attack. So basically, if you want to kill my stuff, then my guy will move up.
Okay.
Alright, that's Wolfie done. I'll do my Corsair now. He's gonna move up 6. Alright, Corsair's going to shoot into the number 3, which will be a spray of 11. I'll be able to hit number 3 and your number 3 of Dreadguard Cavalry. I'll do that. I'll spend 1 focus to... No, I'll spend 1 focus to boost.
Okay.
The attack. So, again, I need an 8. Because it's Rat of 6 and the Cavalry now. Okay, so I need an 8. I might as well boost. I hit this time.
70 nice -5, 3 in, yes.
Okay, now the striker will go. Striker will get an extra focus. Striker will move, so he'll spend 1 to run. So he'll get entirely in front of Wolfie. And then I'll spend 1 on polarity. No, and then that's it for you. Yeah, because you don't have any ranged anyway. My Legionnaire officer will go. He's going to give the Stormblade Legionnaires March, which will give them Pathfinder. He'll go down here, and then he'll take a shot at number 3. We're at 5. Hit an 8. I miss. And then my Stormblade Legionnaires will run. Running and moving doesn't really matter, so I'll just move here. I'll run there. I'll in my turn.
Dusk turn 2.
I then start my turn, and because the Dreadguard Slayers were damaged in the previous turn, my opponent had triggered Vengeance, so I advance all of my Dreadguard Slayers 3 inches, and one of them manages to make a swing at the striker. However, his armor is too high for me to actually do anything. I believe he was at arm 21. I did manage to roll a hit. However, with POW 15, I think it was dice -6, and I rolled terribly low for that roll and didn't do anything. So either way, I just tried to find a way to open up the charge lanes so that I could try and go for an assassination run. Because losing the Eidolon was a big loss for me. And with Wolf's Feet, it would be very difficult for me to try and wipe out his unit without my own guys being at risk from attacks from the Jacks. Because I don't think it has a once per turn restriction. So for every infantry that I kill from my opponent, I have a risk of losing one of my own guys. I then resolve Hazaroth's apparition and move him 2 inches up, or close to 2 inches up as possible, so that I have a better window into charging into Wolf once I clear my own blockers out of the way. Because at this point, I think the only way to win is to go for an assassination. I also drop the upkeeps on Hazaroth so that I have a 7 focused bank in order to increase my odds of getting past his Depth 16. I then activate Dices and try to find a place where she can land in order to use Spell Slave and cast Call of the Grave targeting Wolf. So the idea was, if it hits and damages, I would be able to reduce Wolf's defense by 3, bringing him down to a more manageable defense 13. The hit was actually the harder part. However, with Call of the Grave being a AoE spell, I had a good chance of technically auto-hitting. He had an armor of 16 as well, I believe, so I just needed to deal 9 points of damage in order to get that 1 damage off to trigger the -3 defense from Call of the Grave. However, with those high stats, I did not manage to actually pull the spell off. I then activate the Dreadguard Sire, advance him 6 inches. I don't have Pathfinder in order to go to the rubble, so in this case, I just ready him as backup and use his battle plan, Stir the Blood, targeting the Dreadguard Cavalry to increase their damage output. Hopefully be able to help out the center or get rid of the Storm Guard on the right-hand side of the map. I then activate the Mage Hunter Commander, and with him having essentially no effective battle plan for the round, I decide to run him over and claim the scenario terrain on my side. Luckily, this model does have Pathfinder, so I am able to exactly end 11 inches on the flag terrain. I then activate my Dreadguard Slayers and declare a charge targeting Wolf from my number 1 Dreadguard Slayer. And I believe I actually had a rules issue here after reviewing the footage. So if you see the end of the movement, you would see that I actually essentially teleported the number 3 Dreadguard Slayer out of combat range from the striker. So I believe I shouldn't have been able to do that. Well, I couldn't, but then that would mean that I would forfeit the model's actions. So you could essentially only declare a charge if you are not being engaged. If you are engaging, that's fine. You don't really lose anything. But if you are engaged, you cannot declare charges. So anyone in the comments, please let me know if I resolved this properly. Because I don't recall if the striker here had reach on me when I placed number 3 right behind Wolf. So I believe I should have forfeited its combat action when I did this. But even then, based on the results, I actually swung 3 times on Wolf, and I actually did nothing. Math 7 versus Def 16 is nice to hit, and it was difficult without any buffs. That was why I was banking on Call of the Grave in order to give it -3 defense. But yeah, so tactically, I think the better option here was to swing at either the Courser or the striker to try and whittle it down to ineffectivity. But yeah, I had to take the risk because at this point in time, Wolf did not have any focus. So should I have hit and managed to do a critical decap, this would have been a glorious play. However, since I missed all 3 chances, and even if I should only have 2, that's a big thing. So in this case, I just essentially cleared the line so that Hazaroth could charge Wolf. So I end their activation with them essentially missing all of their shots. So then this is the crucial part of the match. I declare a charge with Hazaroth targeting Wolf, and I have the full 7 focus in order to try and win this. So I swang with Mat 8 targeting his Wolf. That means 8s to hit. I boost. I do manage to hit, and with the charge, I'm able to bring him down to 5. I have 6 focus remaining. I buy an attack, boost the attack. I do get the hit. I boost the damage just to ensure that I have enough to kill it. And I do manage to knock out Wolf here with, I believe, 2 focus remaining. So that is a good game versus Gildin. And let's get on to the outro. If you are seeing this, thank you for watching all the way up the end. I hope you enjoyed the show, and I hope Gildin managed to enjoy that match with me. I tried giving him tips at the end. He actually didn't play bad. I just had the lucky opening charge. I think that was his only mistake, was to leave a lane for my guys to charge Wolf and leave him without focus. I think that was the only mistake there. If he had more focus or I didn't have the charge lane, this game would have gone differently. I probably would have lost on scenario, as like I mentioned, his feat was a risky feat for me to take. So yeah, good game, man. If you are watching this, we are likely gonna have a rematch soon, because in the campaign I actually have Hazaroth camping Signar territory. So Gildin has his chance to actually kick my ass and take back Signar. So don't forget to like, comment, and subscribe if you want to see more of this. And as always, kick ass with honor, game with glory, progress, not perfection. Bye-bye.